Thinking about schooling. Christians considering schooling options for their children. Maybe you're wondering about why some Christians send their kids to Christian schools and why others, equally committed Christians, send their children to local public state schools. Personally, I can think of some state and Christian schools that are quite attractive, and I can think of other state and Christian schools that I wouldn't send my kids to in 1,000 years. Which is the best choice? Perhaps this issue has arisen because you're thinking really seriously about schooling options for your own children. Well done! Being prepared to think and pray about this issue is really important. Our hope is that this booklet helps confirm for you that there are few more important choices that you can make for your children that God has entrusted to you than selecting the best school for them. Hello, my name is Dr. Kenneth Meyer, and I'd like to welcome you to Richard Edlin's booklet, Thinking About Schooling. Christians considering schooling options for their children. The booklet and this video are intended to work together. If you do not have copies of the booklet, you can contact EdServe International for prices and supply. In the video, first I will introduce you to Dr. Edlin. Then we will explore together two of the key premises that underline our approach and our biblical foundations for addressing this vital issue of making wise choices for the education of your children. Richard, why did you take the time and effort to put together a booklet and this video on thinking Christianly about children's education?
Well, I guess, like for many of us, it starts with our own family. 30 years or so, more than 30 years or so ago, when my wife and I were thinking about what is the best place that we should bring in to help us nurture our kids, there wasn't much out there that was written that we could go to and read and try and gain an understanding that is faithful to our beliefs as Christians. Now, several decades later, we've had the privilege of working with Christians in many different parts of the world, in many different cultural settings, exploring exactly this issue. And there is some material out there now that addresses education in an academic way. Some of the people who are looking at this video might be familiar with one of my books, The Cause of Christian Education, that's used in a lot of universities and college settings around the world. But this booklet has a different purpose. It's designed to take a more preliminary look at the issue of thinking about schooling. It steps back and is designed not to provide an option for the readers, but to say the choice is actually yours, no one else's. What we want to do, based upon the experience we've had and the contact we've had with other Christians around the world over several decades, is bring together some of the important ideas that you will want to consider, think and pray about, so that you then yourselves can reach the appropriate conclusion as to what the schooling choice is that you should make for your own kids.
Richard, in your booklet, before it discusses the 6 key questions that ask about Christian schooling options, you set the scene by establishing 2 key premises relating to the issue of education as a whole. The first of these is, education is never neutral. What does it mean? Why is it important, Richard?
Well, Ken, every textbook, every schooling system, every teacher has got some basic idea or belief, if you like, about what makes for good schooling. They have some vision of what a good student should look like when they graduate from their system. And they include materials in their teaching program that reflects that. And they leave materials out of the teaching program that doesn't reflect that. And so they're guided by beliefs. And that's what we mean when we say that education is never neutral. It's always guided by the beliefs or by the religious perspectives, if you like, of the people who are providing that education. And that's true whether you're talking about a Christian school or whether you're talking about the secular state school down the road. In fact, Because religion refers to a cause, principle, or system of beliefs, we could go so far as to say that all education is religious. And this foundational premise of educational non-neutrality imposes on every parent the responsibility of ensuring that the faith assumptions of prospective schools, for example, that God is or is not relevant to understanding children or to maths or to science or to evaluating students, etc., are in alignment with their own core religious beliefs.
In the booklet, as we discuss the 6 key questions about schooling options, you set the scene by establishing key ideas or premises relating to the issues of education as a whole. The second of these premises is that faithful schooling should always draw our children closer to God. What does this mean and why is it important?
The first premise, that education is never neutral, has dramatic implications. Schooling is either looking at God's world God's way or it's not. And if schooling is looking at God's world God's way, it is increasing the hope and possibility that our children will be drawn closer to Him. That is, if you'll forgive my play on words, this school is not spending all of its time looking at the sun, but it looks at everything else in the light that the Son, Jesus, provides. If schooling is exploring the world as if God is not relevant to it, it's denying God. And however dedicated and professional those teachers and their curriculum might be, that school is leading our children away from Him.
Richard has given you 2 important background ideas that underline what we believe to be 6 important questions that we all want to consider when making decisions about which schooling and teachers we enlist to help us in the nurture of our children. We now look forward to joining with you in exploring these questions. Remember that this video series supports, but does not replace the booklet that Richard has written. So please don't forget to get your own copies of the booklet from EdServe International.
Welcome to the second section of this booklet and video series on thinking about schooling, Christians considering schooling options for their children. My name is Ella, and I'm a senior member of the administrative and teaching team of a Kinder to Year 12 school with over 500 students. I have been teaching for several decades in a range of schools around Australia. The booklet and video series have taken you through some introductory comments and 2 core premises. We now turn our focus to 6 key questions that we believe to be important for all Christian parents to consider as they think about what types of institutions and teachers they will enlist to assist them in the education of their children. Here are the 6 key questions. Key question number 1. Do the schools you are considering honour God in their mission statements, goals, practices and outcomes? Key question number 2. Do the schools you are considering employ, train and retrain Christian teachers? Key question number 3. Do the schools you are considering reflect a Christian way of thinking about children? Key question number 4. Do the schools you are considering reflect a secular perspective or a Christian perspective in their curriculum and pedagogy, which is the patterns of teaching and learning? Key question number 5. Do the schools you are considering prioritise an active participation with parents? Key question number 6. Do the schools you are considering give an emphasis in enrolment to children from Christian homes? The detailed information for each question can be found in Dr. Edlin's booklet. You will want to read the written material as you look at each of the 6 linked questions. For each question, the video will provide you with a few comments from some parents who will relate their school experiences with regard to that question. My role is to lead you through each question and introduce the various families to you. So let's look at the first key question. Do the schools you are considering honour God in their mission statements, goals, practices and outcomes? Here we are in the library, and I'd like to introduce you to Rob and Belinda, who have been thinking about this particular question themselves.
Yeah, hi Ella, I'm Rob, and this is my sweetheart wife, Belinda. Yeah, we've got two young boys, Zach who's 8 and Toby who's 5. So obviously over the last few years we've had to consider schooling for Zach and for Toby next year. I must admit I'm probably a bit lazy when it comes to checking out the school's mission statements and goals and practices. But what is important to me is the outcomes. So what is my boy's behaviour like? And so when he comes home, is he picking up ungodly behaviours from school? And yeah, that's what's important to me. But I'm not sure, Sweet, did you check out the mission statements for the schools and what your thoughts are on that?
No, I know when we were starting to consider schools, that we did look at Christian and the public system, and we decided on going with the public school. And our experience with that is that the important thing is in guiding him when he comes home with these challenges and behaviours that he's coming home with, that we're, as Christians, we try and guide him through that in a godly way. And he is doing pretty well. And, you know, he prays for his friends and he's aware of the difference in our home to other homes. And so, yeah, we're quite happy with the decision that we've made and the way that we're able to help him and mould him in his experience there at the school.
In the booklet, you had the opportunity to consider the vision or mission statements from several schools and compare them to your own values and priorities. How did this activity go for you? When we look at these statements, which statements display an intention to draw children closer to God? What insights do your responses give you as a Christian parent into the type of school that you believe to be appropriate for your children? Now, as we go through the booklet, we will be finding all the different questions, and this one is question 2, which says, do the schools you are considering employ, train and retrain Christian teachers? Young parents Jeff and Lexi have found the nature of the teachers to be crucial for their decision making about schooling options.
Hi, I'm Jeff and this is my wife Lexi. We have 4 wonderful children, 3 of whom are in Christian education. When it came to making the decision about our children's education, teachers and their beliefs and their worldviews was crucial to us. They were going to have a huge impact on our kids, and we wanted to make sure that impact that they were having was going in the same direction that we had at home. So it was very crucial to us that we chose a school where the teachers would be teaching them truth about God and His world, and having influence on them that would affirm what we're teaching them at home.
And I think school is a large proportion of the time that they spend. So, and I guess we sort of aren't just focusing on their academic success, but the teachers are important in terms of looking at their whole self, not just academically, but spiritually, that they have a concern for their relationship with Jesus as well. I think that sort of led to partly, to our decision.
Well, I guess that the issue of the beliefs and practices of the teachers is obviously really important. This just underscores what Jesus said in Luke chapter 6, verse 14, when he said that the student, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher. Are kids basically good, basically bad, or just born as blank slates? Key question 3 attempts to map out a Christian understanding of the nature of children, compared to how others view them, and how this issue relates to the basic ways we apply this understanding of children in our schooling systems today. The actual question is, do the schools that you are considering reflect a Christian way of thinking about children? Let me introduce you to our third young Christian couple, Emily and Steve. They'll talk about the way their experience of how schools approach the nature of the child shapes their thinking about school choices.
The schools that we are considering have an open missional focus that are Christ-centred, which we think are important.
But we also consider the other side, where a closed or restricted means that the families are all from the same background and have the same faith-based understanding. But we also consider that missional is very important, so that our kids can learn to be missionaries, learn to share Christ, and have a Christ-focused school is what's important to us, and that can come in both forms.
Thanks for those really helpful insights, Emily and Steve. Regarding how kids act, someone once said, if you have kids, you don't have to explain. If you don't have kids, you can't explain. Your reflection as Christian parents regarding the nature of children has been very useful. We're back with Rob and Belinda, and we're going to discuss the relevance of approaches to teaching and learning in making school choices. This leads into key question 4. Do the schools you are considering reflect a secular perspective or a Christian perspective in their curriculum and pedagogy? When we talk about pedagogy, we're talking about the teaching and learning activities. So let's hear from Rob and Belinda.
With the current school our son Zach goes to, it doesn't have a Christian perspective, and that's something I really struggled with making decision between a Christian school and a public school, was that the teachers at the secular school is at now, they're not Christians, so they can't help but put their worldview through the style they teach onto our child. And that's what attracted me to, seriously considering a Christian school, is that the Christian teachers and their worldview is the same as ours, so that's great for our children. So, and therefore, because we're always looking at this, we're thinking if there's a curriculum change that was unhelpful in a public school, that we'd probably be quick to bring our kids across to a Christian school. And I think you were talking the other day about, what was it, the Safe Schools?
Yeah, well, the proposed Safe Schools program is something we were watching very closely, and we would have changed from a public school to have the opportunity of having a Christian school where we live, so we would have changed because we thought that was quite a important curriculum change.
Well, didn't question 4 raise some really important issues? I'm sure that you'll agree with me when I say that it's important for our schools to give our children literacy and numeracy skills, but that schooling is much more about forming children to live with hope, resilience and faith in God's world than it is about merely teaching them fractions or enabling them to recite the periodic table. Are you a lollipop lady helping kids across the pedestrian crossings? Are you a canteen helper serving lunches to hungry children? Or in addition to those tasks, do you see yourself as working alongside teachers to actually help shape the content and nature of the teaching and learning in prospective schools? Key question 5 addresses this issue when it asks, do the schools you are considering prioritise an active partnership with parents? Jeff and Lexi have specific desires about how they want to interact with prospective schools. Let's hear from them as they tell us more about this.
Being in partnership with the school was very important to us. We don't want our kids just to disappear for 6 hours a day and then come home and tell us that school was good. We want to know what's happening at school, and we want to be involved in the shape of that school as well. And what we love about Christian education is that it's a parent partnership, an association and board members who have a say in the direction of the school, and it's not just driven by a curriculum governed by the state. So we love that, and we love that we have relationships with the parents of our kids too, that we know them well, and that we see them not only at school but within the Christian community as well. So we see them as people too, not just as professionals, and that's really important to us as well.
It's also, it's beneficial for the children that, the parents are involved, and it shows that they're greatly loved, but it also means that we're a part of what they're learning. We're not separate, we're integral in being able to help teachers, and because they're doing they're helping us in supporting us with training our children.
Parental help with responsibilities such as traffic control and meal service are important, but the Bible requires parents, not teachers, to be primarily responsible for the nurture of their children, so that involvement of Christian parents in school life needs to go much beyond being a library monitor or sports coach. In the same way that you want parents to respect the training and expertise of the teacher, so too you want the teachers to respect your ongoing input as parents into the way the curriculum and teaching patterns shape your children. These questions from Dr. Edlin have helped us look at matters such as the goals of schools and the importance of various participants or stakeholders, such as teachers, parents, and your own children. The final question, question 6, shifts the focus to consider issues relating to the backgrounds and hopes of the other children in the school and the families from which they come. Question 6 says, do the schools that you are considering prioritise enrolment to children from Christian homes? This is a controversial issue. Some Christian parents maintain that enrolment policies allowing children from any faith background to enrol in the school waters down the Christian foundation and nurturing profile of the school and increases the possibility of secular influences in the classroom and in the playground. On the other hand, other Christian parents affirm that the Christian school setting provides a wonderful platform for the hopes and glory of a Christian worldview to be shared with unchurched families. Steve and Emily have their own perspective on this matter.
The schools that we are considering have an open missional policy which is important to us, but is also cross-centred.
I do, though, see the other side, where if you have a closed or restricted policy, each of the students are going to be coming from the same faith background, and then they can foster within the classroom those faiths, that beliefs that we have. But I also consider that it's quite important for our family and our kids to learn about being missionaries and what's the best place for that. And in the classroom, they can be challenged. They can start thinking for themselves about their response to Christ. But that's what's important, is that our kids have a God world, God's way teacher and school that encourages them to be Christ-focused on the cross.
My prayer for all viewers and readers is shaped by Paul's prayer for his fellow believers in the church in Philippi. And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best concerning school choices, and may be pure and blameless until the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God. And that comes from Philippians chapter 1, verses 9 through 11.
You love your children beyond words, and you are passionate about their nurture and upbringing. You are prepared to make considerable sacrifices in order to give them the very best start in life. In your heart of hearts, Though you value things such as good job, access to higher education, and a secure life partner for them, in your very core, you know that these things can only fully flourish when based upon your children's coming to understand God's world, God's way, with all the consequential blessings of hope, resilience, purpose, as they make a commitment to serve Him and honour Him in all of life. This means that one of the highest priorities is to have your home, school and church working in harmony, where the school is an enriching, multifaceted community that supports you in providing Christ-centred, biblically grounded, culturally engaging and academically rigorous education that equips your children to live purposefully in God's world for God's glory. We trust that you have prayerfully reflected upon the 2 foundational premises and the 6 focusing questions in this booklet. You will come to a step closer to making the wise educational choices for your children with whom the Lord has blessed you and whom He has entrusted to your care.